important is that you channel your anger, that you are handling your anger. You don't just give room to your anger without giving borders.
You manage
it, you manage it,
Yes,
you
yes.
handle it. And so you might want to confess your anger to God, or if you have a person of trust, go meet with your person of trust and just tell that person how angry you are and just confess it.
I heard a wonderful teacher about that regarding some other issues, but I particularly remember this statement he made. He said, God doesn't mind you being honest to him.
Exactly.
If you doesn't like shouting, if you feel you're angry, he knows your heart anyway. So he doesn't mind you being real to him.
Of course not. He doesn't get a nervous
people
breakdown.
need to hear that, because I think some people are, coming from a religious background, perhaps they try to kind of moderate themselves. I'm going to behave now because I'm going to pray. I'm going to use a certain words. I'm not going to use certain other words. So basically, you're not giving your real self. It's almost like you're playing something because, you're good intentions, but nevertheless, you're not being real, not being real to yourself and not being real to God. And God doesn't mind you being angry at him or you being expressing whatever you feel towards him. It's important to mention that.
Yeah, very true. So yeah, I one friend of mine, she used to say, well, God doesn't get a nervous breakdown just because you are honest and real with him.
Yes, exactly.
He can handle that. So and
I like that. He can handle you. God is big enough to handle you. I like that.
And but also in that stage you might be or for a while very critical
of yourself.
We could have been critical towards the doctor. Couldn't he had done the surgery better or so, or could other people not they treat us in a better way, or whatever. Everything around the loss. It can happen that you, for a while, for a phase, that you are very critical. And then it helps when you have friends or a community around you, which helps you to balance your perception and to help you to stay in the right balance and in the right way of perceiving things and people. Yeah,
very true.
So and then comes the point where you sense that you need to return to life.
Good.
Yeah, but I have experienced this was not a difficulty for us, but in helping other couples or other people who have lost a loved one. I remember a friend of us, he lost his wife and he struggled so hard, but he really struggled and he resisted returning back to a healthy, normal life. And so we saw that in other people's lives. So, and again, this is, I think, where it is needed to just make a quality decision. Our soul, we have a will, we have free willpower.
Exactly.
And the willpower is extremely powerful.
Yes.
It steers you through life.
Very true.
And sometimes we need consciously use our willpower, even when our emotions cry different, to make healthy quality decisions, which will help us make it through the next phase or through the next, whatever we have to take, through the next steps.
Can I interject a little bit? How can you help someone who, as you said, refuses to return to life?
You cannot do much. And it depends a little bit what position you have. As friend, you cannot do much because you cannot go against the willpower of another person. Because God gave every human being the power of choice.
Of course.
God gave every human being the free will. So God will not intervene. So when God does not intervene, we cannot either. All we can do is try to give them something at hand, or try to do or say something which might trigger in them some wake up or some inspiration or some willingness or just some dawning of light. Because in that phase, it can be as if you are in a kind of slumber.
Yeah, I know. It's like you don't live, you're vegetating. You're just breathing in and out, but yeah. I understand. I tell you what I would do, for better or for worse. Never been in a situation. I was just trying to think for other people. I do skydiving, you know, with the, yeah. So I would take the person skydiving. No, I'm serious. So that people would, it helps, I think, to, well, from what I can tell, it helps people to see things from a different perspective. When you are up there, you are up there. You are above everything, you know? And whether you enjoy it or you are afraid, both are good. Because it shakes you out of your whatever state that is, out of that fog. It's just my thought. Maybe I will try it one day on somebody if I meet someone.
I mean, what you mean is change the perspective.
That too, but also when the person realizes that, I don't know, it's just something about danger that immediately sobers you up, wherever you are. What I have noticed is I'm a kayaker. So, and I hate tipping over, obviously. I'm not afraid, but I hate it with a passion. I don't know how else to explain it, because I'm a good swimmer. So really, there is no, well, there is always danger, I suppose. But anyway, every time this was like a long time ago when I had a problem with that, like I had, you know, some kind of issues or situations with dealing with other people. And it always helped me to be on the water in a race kayak. Race kayak is the thinnest, very narrow. You tip over all the time. And for me to be on the water, being in life-threatening danger that I perceive to be life-threatening danger, always helped me put everything into perspective. When I didn't tip over and I was able to do my training without being in life-threatening danger that I perceive to be life-threatening danger, I immediately realized I have no problem whatsoever. You understand? Because I survived. I don't know how else to put it, but I know it helped me, you know, not regarding grief necessarily, but just coming out of what I perceived to be a big problem. We, you know, had to deal with situations or even family members or situations like this. And I was annoyed, but in a way, it calmed me very much when I was in danger, but I perceived to be in danger anyway. And in a way, immediately my priority list lined up. My priority was to survive. And I mean it. And I really, I mean, I felt it. That was my thing. So for someone, maybe to take them up a few hundred meters or even, you know, taller, because you can go up as high as the planes. You're not supposed to, but you can, because as far as the wind takes you, you can. I mean, there's no limit. And when you survive that, you're going to be so happy. And you feel like, you know what? I have things to live, and there you realize you don't want to die. That's the thing. You don't want to, when you are in life-threatening danger, you realize you don't want to die. You want to live. And that's what sometimes, it's almost like putting cold water, throwing cold water on somebody. They immediately come alive because something shocking happened to them. It's just my thought anyway. Very radical, but
it could be if you being in the picture, if you would pour cold water, they would slap you.
It's not, but at least they would sober up.
Well, but at the end of it, it is, do they want to?
No, they don't. That's why I say you have to drag them. That's,
yeah, but still, then it's in the end it's a matter of the will. Do they want to? In the end,
I'm just trying to think in practical steps, so in practical ways. Like you would just thinking, like a friend of mine is going through a lot of hardships, and I suggested this to him: go up. He also has an extreme fear of heights. I said, good. So he's going to do that. But the point is, you know, when he lost his wife, he wanted to die. Wife for about, like, I don't know, like 17 years or so, or 14 years, 17 years, something like that. So, you know, young man, but nevertheless, they, you know, childhood sweetheart, they you know, they had a situation, and then he just, you know, lost willpower to live. And I understand that on an intellectual level. Obviously, I've never been through that, praise God, but, you know, trying to help and to say, you know what, I understand where you are, sort of, you know, intellectually. Just give me one day. Just give me one day. Do something for me. Just one day. So I'm going to take you up skydiving, for instance. I'm just saying, but with this, yeah, skydiving. So see how you feel. If you don't like it, you can still go back to depression where you were, but I think you will want to live. So it's just my thought.
Yeah. I mean, I understand what you say, but it's, the person still has to cope.
Yeah, of course. I can't
and has to cooperate.
The promise, give me just one day. Okay, you said one day. Okay, so tomorrow will be the one day. You said it, we agreed. We should
because if the person does not want to cope and does not want to cooperate, you can give practical advice as much.
Yeah, of course.
And the person has to take it.
Yeah.
And the person has to be willing to run with it.
Yeah.
And that's the crucial point. So that's why I say you can't do much. You can suggest.
You can suggest, yeah.
You can try to give a push. But
that's true.
That's it. The person decides if she wants to take it or not.
Of course.
So, yeah. Well, and then as I just thought, all these stages I was talking about back then, after the loss of our little one, I put it for myself. I experienced it in this way, and I put it in words like that. It was in the first 2-3 stages, I was without having ground under my feet. I was like in deepest water, and I did not know how deep, and I did not know how to gain ground under my feet again. And then after 8-9 months, I started sensing something of, I'm talking symbolically now, as if I would have kind of sand underneath my feet, as if you swim in the ocean.
Yeah.
And you swim and you are leaving that area where the water goes to here, and all of a sudden, you know, underneath your feet is no water. Yeah. And I have had it several times. I was in my life, I was swimming out in the ocean. I love to swim, and I love to swim in the ocean. And I have been in the Pacific and in other oceans. So, and I found myself 2-3 times that waves have, I was drifting away through waves, and I did not realize it.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, I found myself in a place where I knew I had no ground. I did not know how deep it was. And I realized there is a currency. And I really, really need to work myself back to the secure place where I knew I would have sand underneath of my feet.
That's a picture, because water can really heal.
Yes,
physically, it can heal your soul. And I know someone who went through a lot of PTSD, actually, trauma. And she was a very good swimmer. And the only place she felt safe and somehow comforted is underwater. And she could hold her breath for longer time, longer than normal people, because, you know, she was a very good swimmer. And she would just sink in deep into the, you know, at the bottom of the swimming pool, and she would just sit there, and she would feel, somehow she would feel alone, yet not alone. And that healed her.
And also it can be that these stages, as I said before, it is not stage 1 and then comes stage 2 and then 3. It's in a movement. It's current. And I found myself after a couple of months that I sensed I will have food underneath my feet or ground underneath my feet. But for 1.5 years or nearly 2 years, it happened that in between there have been phases of 2 or 3 or maybe 4 weeks where it felt again as if I would be there when I had no ground under my feet. And over that period of time, I realized and understood that because it is a movement, this process is something ongoing. It can feel like as if you have lost your ground again, but in reality, you are gaining ground.
Okay.
So don't let your mind trick you.
That's good.
Don't let that sense of grief or maybe guilt or maybe despair still or depression trick you. You are gaining ground even when in between it feels like you still have no ground or you lost the ground you thought you have gained. Don't let that trick you. You are in your way of gaining ground and it is going forward on gradually. Hope will come through. Gradually, you will see the sunshine again, and gradually you will breathe life as you did it before. And will you be a person fully back into life?
How long can those moments last when you feel like you're back in stage 1? 1 week, 1 day, few hours?
Very different. Okay. Very different. Just and I realized that in the beginning, I put it in this picture. The pain in the early stages was like ocean waves just crushing over me. And I lost, as when you are out in the ocean and a wave crushes over, you are losing ground.
Yeah.
And these situation, these feelings, it can last a day, it can last a few days, it can last 1 week or 2 weeks.
Wow. And then you go back again to your normal step.
You try as good as you can in that phase to go back to your normal, but it comes all of a sudden.
Oh, okay. So it just hits you suddenly like a wave.
Yeah, it just hits you. You can't prepare yourself. It just boom.
Yeah, my last question was how to get somebody out of depression where they don't necessarily want to live anymore.
Exactly what I wanted to read to you. But yes, the reason why people resist to be helped is that while you are in your grieving situation, it can happen that people start to feel comfortable with their grief. Because in all of that unpredictable and sudden and new situation, this grief became something which they started getting to know. And so it
predictable and familiar.
Yes, and especially when the stage of depression and loneliness was very strong and maybe long, the world outside can become unpredictable
and scary, probably.
Something that, yes, scary and unknown, and because also people change in that process of grief. You will not be the same person when you have come out after you have been before you entered, before that loss had happened. And people sense that. So there is an insecurity. So, and that might be one reason why they are resisting of getting helped. But this is what I wanted to read to you. It is from this book, and I really, oh my goodness, I forgot the English word.
Recommend. We need to come more often.
Thank you. I really want to recommend. So it says here, it is now talking about a stage 9. So stage 8 is we resist the returning. That's because we feel more comfortable in our grief than in the new unpredictable world. And another reason is we have the impression that grief is out of place in our society. And that is
our place in our society?
Is out of place.
Out of place. Oh, I see. So it's not accepted.
It is a taboo. It's not accepted.
Yeah. Okay.
People don't want to talk with you about these difficult topics.
I understand.
In fact, after we lost our son, we have experienced that when we were on a walk, for example, or going through the grocery store, which was nearby, people would change side of the street.
Really?
When they saw us coming. Because they did not want to talk to us.
They could have just
really.
Hi.
It was very hurtful.
Wow.
Very hurtful. And but on the other hand, intellectually, we understood that it was out of insecurity because the people did not know what to say. They just
didn't know how to handle it. Wow. I never heard that. Wow.
But this is what we have figured in many, what we have experienced in many facets, that grief is not, is out of place in society. People do not want, or most people or many people do not want to think about these painful, hurtful, heavy, difficult topics.
Yeah. It's easier to avoid and easier to,
yes,
have another kind of life,
and because of that, it can happen that you are losing your friends, some of your friends, because not everybody is willing to stay with you and to have that as a part of their life.
Yes.
So you might find yourself in a place where you have to look out for new friends, and so you become comfortable with that world of grief. And but then also and many people try to work through that grief by themselves alone, because maybe they feel ashamed that when they realize in reality they need help. It's something they are not common to. That is something they don't feel comfortable with.
They're not used to, especially, I imagine, especially strong, independent people. They're not used to be in this state of helplessness, if you will.
Absolutely. So, and for us who want to help, we soon learn, and this is what I'm reading now from the book. For us who want to learn, we soon learn, for us who want to help, that we cannot, if we try to force ourselves upon someone like this, someone who wants to grieve for him or herself alone inwardly, that it is better to let the person work out the problem for him or herself and call on us if and when we are needed. And that is what I tried to bring across earlier, that in the end, it is a matter of the choice of the free will.
Of course.
Even when we, as those who are around that person who is so broken, and we want to help, and maybe we even know that we can offer help. If the person doesn't really want it, for what reason ever, we have to respect it.
Of course, ultimately we have to respect the people's boundaries. But I'm just wondering that, for instance, with a childhood friend or somebody that you really, really know, or even a family member, I mean, you know, family member, especially these days, people have lost a lot of loved ones, and they need to hear how to cope with it themselves, or cope with someone, and cope with someone who went through that.
Yeah.
And, just seeing other options. To me, it seems, I do understand what you're saying. And to me, it seems that if I leave someone in the fog, they will get lost, you see.
They will get lost.
They will get lost in the fog. They will never come back. It can be any kind of trauma, but I think there's a serious, possibility and a risk that a person will never return to life.
It is true.
Yeah,
it is true. But you see, Jesus never pushes us.
yeah,
He is leading us.
yeah.
And when we are far from God, he is beckoning us in.
Yes.
That's how he does it. And that's what we can do. We can do our best to beckon the people in, or to, better said, to beckon the people out.
Yeah,
of her
exactly.
shut down, beckon into life again. But this is all we can do.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, of course we have to respect boundaries, but
yeah, hurtful and heartbreaking as it might be for us, and as you said, we might see the danger the person is in, but even that we have to respect. God doesn't push us. He never pushes us.
I watched a wonderful movie. One of my favorite movies is The Horse Whisperer. Have you seen The Horse Whisperer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Remember how she, this lively little girl, maybe 13-year-old, I mean, and she basically lost one of her legs due to an accident with a horseback riding, and lost her friend. So she had to, equally the same age, I think 13 she was as well. And, fun riding and all, and then suddenly something happened and the accident. So she had to deal with the loss of her friend, blaming herself, and the loss of her, one leg, I believe. And she couldn't ride. I remember that grief, and I watched it quite a few times, how she sank into this deep depression where she was no longer present. And how that horse whisperer guy, he was obviously not a trained trauma counselor, but he basically dragged her out.
Yeah.
Even, I should say, against her will, because to her it was easier just to sit and feel sorry for herself. She had every right to, needless to say. I mean, I can't even fathom what she must have gone through, especially in that young age. But he didn't let her. But again, the dynamic is different because that's an adult and a child, basically. So maybe that's a slightly different. But the mother didn't know how to handle.
Yes.
She was pushing, wasn't it? Everybody tried their best. She was pushing the best she knew how, because that's the way she would push herself. That's the way she was.
But
I don't know what the father was doing. It was so like no longer present. But still, it was the mother who realized that we are losing her.
Yeah.
Let her be, we are losing her. So she dragged her out of her comfort zone, not even comfort, but this horrible place where she was. And she literally drove her across country, thousands of miles away, against her will, I might add. And in the process, she got healed. So, obviously it's a story, but I often thought about that, at that time, that seemed to be the best course of action.
Yes, but she could do it because she was the mother.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Very different.
If it is a friend, you can't do it.
Very true.
So and that's why I'm saying the best we can do is having patience.
Yeah.
Being patient, just allowing them their time, even when we might see clearly that they do wrong decisions.
Yeah.
And that they sorry.
I should do that as well.
And that they, even when we see that they are going wrong steps.
Yes.
So just being patient, just be there, and maybe pray for wisdom, or maybe that we, as those who are around such a person, we talk to professionals
How to
and getting advice from them how to handle our friend, our person.
A picture just came to me. Can you imagine, for instance, if I would be in such a state, how would Apostle handle it? He would drag me by the neck. Or you, for that matter. He would not let us be, just grieve, sit in the corner and just take your time and grieve. No, he would drag us. And I like that, I must say. I probably wouldn't like it at the time, but he wouldn't let
But yes, he would. But look, since you have given him the mandate.
Yes, of course.
He can do it.
Yes, of course.
And this is when it is a friend, you need to know that you have his or her mandate to do that.
Yes, permission. Yes.
You need to have the permission. You need to have the platform.
Very true.
And that is what needs to be said.
These are very good points, because I know people have a lot of people around them who they try to help because of circumstances, but they don't know how.
For example, Corinne, we could not help her. She would not allow us. She didn't.
I know.
She didn't allow.
After this situation, I knew that I didn't know up till that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard that many people were trying to help her and she refused. Yeah.
Yes, even her best friend in Switzerland.
Yes, I spoke with her too. Yeah.
She could not help. Yeah, and that's the point. Apostle, he has a position, so that out of that position he can do that.
That's why it's so important to have a man or woman of God around you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And you gave him full permission.
Yes, it's true.
That's the point. It's the same. We talked in all those years. We had several occasions where we talked with Apostle about how to raise dead people back to life.
Yeah.
And it is always the matter of the family members around. And it is always a matter what the person itself said or decided before.
True.
But even when you know you can raise the person back to life, when the family members, the closest family members around, do not permit, you can't do anything.
That's true.
That's the matter of the power of choice. It's a power of choice. But God does respect it.
That's for sure. Sure. He gives us free will. That's for sure.
And I was thinking that in several situations that for God also many situations must be heartbreaking for him.
Of course.
But he respects
your free will.
And it's I was just reading in this book. I was just reading the last chapter, struggling to affirm reality, the way back into life. And it is if it was a longer grieving process, so meaning but being a couple of years, then to find your way back into life is really it's a road you have to go by purpose. You have to purpose that you want to go that unknown road back to life, step by step.
Of course.
And it is not always easy, and in between it might feel that you have lost it all, and it might feel that the world outside has become strange to you. but also gradually, as I said, hope comes through, and gradually you will experience and realize that you started enjoying little things of life again.
And then you probably feel guilty. I bet you are feeling guilty when you start enjoying life again. Because that seems logical, doesn't it?
Well, I myself did not.
So like, for instance, when your wife dies, and then you suddenly, well, not suddenly, but you know, during the course of time you meet someone, then maybe guilt would appear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is something, yes. I remember that widow, which we
in the church
helped through. And she is a person, she is very positive towards life.
Yes.
And for her, it was clear, first of all, she had to be there for her 4 children. But then also, since she is such a positive and outgoing person, very soon after 3-4 years.
That's not very soon.
She made up her mind that there will be a new man in her life, that she's going out to look for opportunities.
That's beautiful.
Yes, and just mentioning that, I have met oftentimes or talked to people who thought if the grieving process will last 1 year, then this is very long. It is not. It is just a split of a time. Wow. And even 2 years is not a long time period for a heavy grief or heavy loss. So in our case, after 2 years, we started being able to step by step go back into life. But it was still a process. It was still a road to go. And after 5 years, we realized that the level of our energy had gone back to about 70%. But it was 5 years. And then later, way later, another 5 years, we realized that we are now in the full level and amount of energy and strength than we had been before the loss. But all in all, it was 10 years.
Wow.
So don't be surprised when it takes time, more than 2 years. Actually, experts say, well, 2 years, that's like, wow. It's a breath. It's not long. It's a short time period when a person has faced a heavy loss. Yeah, so saying that it's important to know, even for those who are around a person, because of course also we have experienced that people got impatient. Well, but it is now 1 year ago, it is now 2 years ago, the person must be normal and back to life and be the same old person. No. It's okay.
It's putting extra pressure on the person, isn't it?
It does. It does. And the person must define him or herself new.
Of course.
Because this grief, this loss changes a person.
How do you experience it has changed you, your husband, and your children? What is the what kind of way did it change you?
It as I said in the beginning, we made this quality decision that this loss will not tear apart our marriage and family. So we found ourselves that as a couple and as a family, we have grown closer toward another, and that our hearts, in our family, we put it this way: we have a golden bond of love woven through all of our hearts.
Yes.
And it really strengthened the unity and the togetherness in our family and in our marriage. And it also, for me and my husband, it gave us another kind of strength and a new level of strength. We were afterwards not that impacted by things which would happen outside,
of course,
as we would have been before, because we needed to grow this new amount and level of strength.
But also because you went through hell. So from that point perspective, nothing seems to be that big of a deal anymore, isn't it?
True.
You went through the worst. It seems you went through the worst. So it's like, I don't know, something else, like the car breaks down or I'm losing my job, doesn't seem to be a big of a deal anymore.
It puts everything in perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So your perspective has changed.
Yes. I remember when our second old daughter, when she went to Australia, and then later our oldest son went to Australia, people would ask me, isn't that terrible that your children are so far away? And I was thinking, well, it is not nice. It is difficult to visit them, but they are alive.
Yeah,
I will
my first thought that at least they are alive.
I will see them again. They are alive.
Of course.
They are not dead.
And they are doing well. So they're going there to be better and bigger and faster and more. So it's all for the good.
Yeah, but that was the second thought. My first thought was, they are alive. I will see them again in this life, here on earth. So that is comfort enough.
Of course.
For the long distance.
Of course.
So things are in a different perspective.
Yeah, very different perspective. I understand exactly in a way, yeah, that how it changes, how you're going through things. Nothing seems to be that big of a deal anymore.
Yeah, no, you have survived it, and
you come out victorious, because just as you said, crisis, any kind of crisis and trauma and things like, especially death. I mean, it's like probably the biggest crisis you can have in life, the loss of a child. It can make you or break you. And in your case, it made you guys. So there's hope out there, is what I'm saying. There's hope.
There is hope.
You don't have to be buried under this grief. You take as much time as you need, but in the end, you come out victorious, you come out stronger. And out of that experience, you're able to help others.
True. And actually, I wrote it down. There is a scripture. It is 1 Thessalonians 4:13, and it says, grieve not as those who have no hope.
Wow, I like that. Wow, I like that.
Grieve not as those who have no hope. So, and that's why I call this topic healthy grieving.
Yes.
Grieve, yes. As in the same way as it is okay to feel angry. Grieve, but don't grieve as a person who has no hope. Grieve as a person who has hope. And this is the last I want to say in this. What helped us the most was our mature faith.
Of course.
We knew that in all of that despair and darkness and pain, we were not alone.
That's right.
We knew
that your son is with God. So he's in a good place and you shall see him again, of course.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly. Yes. So that is a strong comfort and consolidation. But knowing this, that we as mother and father and as the family with the siblings, that we were not alone in this. God was with us and is still with us. And having this hope and having this assurance, that was the most strongest factor of help in going through this process of grief in a healthy way.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And let's not forget you had another son.
Yeah, but this is I mean, we didn't plan that. There were a lot of people who said, well, why don't just get pregnant and get another baby?
What a thing to say. What a
People
thing.
said that to me.
Heartless, stupid.
It is heartless. You cannot substitute a child.
Well, of course. Come on, it's not like a cat. I'll get another cat. Come on.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, but people said that, and
Probably people we have never been in the space.
of course not.
Wow. So this is something you guys should not say to your friends. Just a warning sign out there. Don't say that.
So we decided not to have another child.
Really? You purposely decided not to?
Yes.
Oh,
we
wow.
purposely decided not to have another child, but to stay with these 4 teeny children.
Okay.
But God had other plans.
Of course.
I really would say he tricked us out. And when I found out that I was pregnant, that was when I entered the stage of anger.
Oh, really? Wow.
I was very angry.
I expected you would be happy.
No, I wasn't.
Why?
I was very upset.
Really?
Because first of all, I did not choose to get pregnant.
Okay.
And we had decided to leave it as it was. Plus, knowing all this about what the unborn baby experiences in the womb,
Okay.
all the emotions.
Of course.
And I thought, how can me being in that depths of grief and pain and mourning, that can't be healthy to the new one. So
I have another question. Why did you purposely decide together with your husband not to have another child? Why?
It was, I would say, it was just like, well, that's it. Because this 5th child was a miracle child. We have had the 4 children before, and we thought for some years, that's fine now.
Okay.
We wanted to have 3 or 4 children. So it was fulfilled, so to say.
Okay. Okay.
And
so
we
you
were
already had a plan anyway.
Yes, and we were happy.
And then the factory was closed. The factory was closed. You know who said that to me? Georgina, Martin's wife. That was her sentence. Okay, now I have so many. The factory is closed. I always remember this. She's so sweet.
Well, the factory had vacation, had holidays. So, but then I realized after 4.5 or 5 years that I realized that this desire rose up to have another baby.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
So I was surprised. I did not expect that to happen. I was not thinking about that all the years before. I was busy with life and 4 children.
Well, and with grief.
and ministry.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
But then this desire rose up, well, having another child. So we talked as a couple. And so we decided, okay, but there was this big problem. I was very ill. I had a severe, heavy form of epilepsy.
You did? I didn't know that. Wow, really don't.
I had for many years.
Since not because of the grief, but even before.
I had it since my teenage years.
Okay, didn't know that.
And I had to take strong medicine.
Yes, yeah.
And I had to go to regular checkups to the specialist in a particular hospital here in Hamburg. So, and the doctor, she said to me, well, make sure you get not pregnant, because if you
ever or after the 4 ever?
After the 4 ever.
Okay.
Because the strong medication I had to take after the 4th child.
Okay.
Before I had a break for a couple years. I had taken medicine when I was a young adult, a teenager, and then I had a break of a few years, but then it came back worse.
Wow.
After the birth of the 4th child. So I had to take strong medication. So the doctor, she said to me, do not get pregnant again. That's it. Family is closed.
Yes.
Because if you get pregnant, the child might be misformed,
Wow.
disabled,
Yes.
or maybe even dead.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Don't become pregnant. So, and then this desire rose up in my heart, and we were talking, and we said, well, we are open, but we have this problem. But then God healed me miraculously. And he really made me free from this terrible, terrible sickness. It's a terrible sickness. So, and I knew I was free. I went to my doctor. She checked me and she officially stated a miracle has happened. She is totally healed.
I'm so happy. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. So I have experienced this miracle. And then I have put down the medication. And then I became pregnant. So that was our miracle baby. And then after 2 years, this miracle baby died. Mm-hmm. And that was one reason why my husband and I said, well, we leave it. We leave it the way it is. We leave it. But God had other plans, and now we have this sunshine boy.
Yes, he is. I think I know him since he was 2 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he indeed, even as a child, he was like that always.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it was, I just, when we were in Providence, one evening we went to dinner with Orrin and Nisha, so we have to cut that away.
Yes.
And we somehow I shared this experience with her, and I shared, I was angry at God that I became pregnant. And when I found out it was a boy again, I was so upset.
Wow, yeah.
Because the pain of the memory.
Of course.
It was the child that died was a boy. And now I had a boy again. So it was the pain of the memory. But it turned out, and that was nothing I could have chosen. It happened that I gave birth to this new child in the same hospital, in the very same room I have given birth to the 5th child, which had died.
Wow.
And it was painful. It was very painful. It was even the same doctor.
Oh, wow.
Who was there. But the staff at the hospital was very, very caring and very, very supporting. They knew about the loss.
Yeah.
And the way they helped me through this grieving process, bringing birth to another child in all of that grief and pain, it was just wonderful how they helped me through. And I asked God why. And he said, you know, for you in this situation, you needed to go through these stations, the same hospital, the same room, the same doctor. You needed to go through that in order that I could heal you completely.
Wow.
So sometimes God is going this way.
While you were speaking, exactly the same conclusion came to me, that sometimes we have to go through similar circumstances that wounded us to get healed. For instance, if someone was, and I used to, in my 20s, I used to counsel with experts, of course. I used to counsel people who came out of trauma, especially sexually abused. Everybody seems to be abused. I mean, 90s, whatever percent. So it's amazing. I mean, people you cannot tell. All you see is their life is going in a horrible direction, and you never know why. And they don't know why either, what the root of it. And most of the times the root of it is that they were sexually abused when they were children. And some of the times even the memories are blocked. So it's a lot of, for years, I helped people like that and counsel people like that with Christians, mind you. But nevertheless, you know, you had to have experts. And what I have experienced is that people who were sexually abused, for instance, a woman sexually abused, many times God chooses another man to heal that person.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound logical, because you want to be a nun, you want to be away from men, away from people, away. But sometimes that's the same. I think in Proverbs it says how does it say? The same comfort we are being comforted with, we comfort others.
Yes.
So that also seems to apply to that God brings a similar situation, like being involved with a man, just to even hold someone's hand of the other opposite sex, that would have been a challenge for someone who was abused. But yet you see how they blossom, and how all that pain is being healed by that man when it's the right one, in the right circumstances. So yes, I mean, we can't put a box on God and say, you know what, this is the way you need to heal me, this is the way you need to deal with me.
No.
Like you did not want you were not very happy about the newborn baby, even the fact that you were pregnant, but God had a way to heal you through that baby, isn't it?
Yeah, and it continued, because the last time I saw David, the child that died, was when he was on that bed and they rolled him into the operation section of the hospital. That was the last time I saw him.
I saw him alive.
So when the other son was born, Sammy, after 2 days, I found out that he had no exit in his body, and he needed an operation.
Whoa, okay.
And then we learned from we have a very good children's hospital here in Hamburg. So we learned that this is happens quite often.
Okay.
So, and Sammy needed 3 operations in the first year of his life.
Wow.
And I remember we were just healing from,
of course,
the other. Here we were with a fresh born baby rushing to the hospital in the ambulance. Can you imagine?
All the
what stood up, all the memories. And then the last thing we saw was him on that roller bed and rolling into the section of the operation rooms, and there we stood. It was such a flashback. And I was totally convinced that I will see him not alive again.
Yes, of course.
This was it.
It's like a deja vu.
Yeah, it was.
Can imagine.
And it happened 3 times.
Wow.
3 times we had to go to hospital. We had to let go and see him on this roller bed. 3 times.
My goodness.
And after the third time, God was saying to us, I did this. I allowed this for purpose, so that you can see now that he will be alive, he lives, he will live, and this is a different story.
This is a different story.
It did look very similar, it felt very similar, but it is a different story, and life goes on.
Exactly. Wow. What a story. What a story. Thank you so much for sharing it. And I know the audience want to hear more from you, so you will be back again.
So my conclusion is to this topic: when we come out of grief experience, we come out, when we did it in a healthy way, we come out at a higher level of maturity, and we come out as deeper persons because we have walked through the valley of the shadow of death.
Exactly.
We come out stronger because we survived it, and we learned to use our spiritual muscles.
Yes.
And we come out and we are better enabled to help others, because we have seen some depths of life.
Of course. Wow. Quite a story. But the point is, you walked through the valley of the shadow of death, but you didn't stay there. you walked through it, and you
Yeah.
came out victorious. And
Yeah.
we know, and probably the audience knows, a lot of people stay there. Well, don't let them stay there. You know, if nothing, then you need to let them know that they are loved, they are accepted, and you are there for them. Even if it's just a hand, you know, a hand holding or a little flower, just as Martina said. It's important for people to know that you are there for them and you haven't forgotten about them and about their grief. And we have to give ourselves time to heal, and we have to give our friends to heal, time to heal as well. Because as you said, everybody has a different process, different time, and we have to allow them to go through that on their own space, on their own pace. And we mustn't push them or rush them. And it's just acceptance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Acceptance and hope. And of course, if you're not Christian, you need to get saved, because all this will be much easier for you. Imagine if you wouldn't have Jesus, right? That would have been just unthinkable.
Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Love you so much. And we should do this again. Whatever topic you want. I know people want to hear from you. So please tell the people, tell the audience where they can find you, if you have a website.
But they can find me on Facebook.
Okay, lovely. I can just include your link in the description so people can find you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was the PR show, A Strong Opinion in a Strong Voice. And you, my dear, definitely have a strong voice.
Thank you so much. It was a joy and a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
God bless you. Love you so much. Talk to you later.